Okay, hello, year seven. Just a quick recorded video to instruct you on what your tasks are today. This is because where I'm working from today, I'm not confident the internet will hold up for the hour of the lesson. So I thought I'd pre-record it and then we'll avoid any technical glitches. So as always, same instructions. Find yourself a quiet space where you're unlikely to be disturbed during the next 45 minutes to an hour. Have your phone away so you're unlikely to be distracted by it. Get a pen, a paper, or some paper, and a ruler ready. You may want a pencil because we're going to be drawing some tables. And if you like to draw tables with a pencil, make sure you have one of them. And your date and title are as followed. Your title is Who Would Rule England in 1066? Your date when you'll be doing this lesson will be Tuesday, the 19th of January. So could you get Who Would Rule England in 1066 and Tuesday, the 19th of January, written down on your sheet of paper or in your book as you would if you're in class, and underline them both, please. Pause the video and do that now. So you should have the title and date written down. What we're going to do today is we're going to identify who had the claim to the English throne in 1066. And by claim, I mean they believe they deserved and should be the next king of England. We're also going to describe who had the strongest claim and why they had the strongest claim. So I'll recap some prior knowledge to start with. You would have done this lesson with me yesterday. So there's two answers to the first question. You just need to write the answers down. You don't need to write the question out. Number one, where did the Normans come from? Number two, what word or words could you use to describe their army? And number three, what was the structure of the Anglo-Saxon hierarchy? Who was at the top and who was at the bottom? Pause the video and have a go at that now, and then we'll go through some answers. So for the first question, you should have two answers, really. They came from North France, from Normandy in North France, when they invaded England. And that's what we learned about, is how they ran their land in Normandy. But in addition to this, they didn't always originate from Normandy. Well done if you remember that they originally were Vikings from Scandinavia who settled in Normandy in the 10th century in 911. Well done if you remembered that. Their army, the word I would use is professional. Now, that word, the definition of it means you are paid to do that full time. So these weren't people with other jobs who would then go and fight in a war. All they did was fight in the Norman armies, which makes them professionals. And that would lead to great organization and great training and tactics. How was Anglo-Saxon England organized? You have the king at the top. You then have your earls who would help him run the country. Apologies for my writing, folks. I'm writing with my mouse. Then you'd have your thanes, and those three groups would all own land. And your bottom two groups who didn't own land and worked on other people's land. You had the richer churls or curls, depending on your pronunciation, and your peasants who were a bit poorer. And of course, underneath the peasants, the people who didn't really have any rights were the slaves. So let me explain what's going to be going on today, and then you have a task for you guys to do yourself. So in January 1066, and I'll highlight what I think is important. The King of England at the time, the Anglo-Saxon king, was called Edward the Confessor. Now, his name was like that, but not because he was a rapper, but because he was a very, very religious man. And those of you who might be aware of the Christian religion, Catholics do something called confession, where they would go to a priest and admit things they have done wrong, which are called sins, and then the priest would forgive them for it and they'd be allowed to carry on with their life. And that's called confessing or being confessors. King Edward was a very religious king, so was known as King Edward the Confessor. And in January 1066, he is dying and he's about to die. Now, this should usually not be a problem at all, but Edward had no children and it was uncertain as to who would take over from him. So I would say in January 1066, King Edward the Confessor has lay on his deathbed or died, because he did die in January 1066, and he had no children. So it was uncertain who would rule England. Usually it would immediately go to his eldest son. Sometimes it would go to the eldest daughter, but usually it was the son because of how we've discussed the certain sexist attitudes of the time. But usually it would go to the oldest son. In this case, he doesn't have any children, so there's a bit of a debate as to who it should be. So the bits I've highlighted, can you make a note of, please? Ideally, put it into your own words. Pause the video to do that. So this image at the bottom is from a very famous historical source. It's called the Bayeux Tapestries, made in France, in Normandy, after the Battle of Hastings. and it portrays the story from King Edward the Confessor dying up until the end of the Battle of Hastings, which I won't spoil. However, it's obviously from a French perspective, so it's going to be biased towards the Normans in the battle. And in this, you sort of have to read it from right to left. Don't ask me why. But in this area here, you have Edward the Confessor, and he's dying, and he's surrounded by 3 people next to him, and a few people like almost a little bit further away in the next room. And then you've got him being his coffin being carried to the church. And what is really, really important is what was said. If I just redraw a circle here, I've lost the pen. Forgive me. What was said here as he was dying. Edward had to choose who was going to be the next king, who was going to succeed him and take his job. And we will never truly know who he decided, because the sources we've got from the time contradict each other. They have different ideas. So we will never know. And because there's not really any evidence of who he chose, it results in 4 men deciding they should be the man to take over from the king. So let's meet the 4 contenders. Now, there's 4 of them. There's Harold Godwinson, William, Duke of Normandy. Now, from our lesson on the Normans, we know the Duke is at the top of Norman society. Edgar Atheling, who's a Saxon prince. And then there's another Harold, but it's spelt with an A there, while that Harold is spelt with an O. That's Harold, the English version, and that's Harald, which is the Viking version, Harald Hardrada, and he's the king of Norway. And these are the 4 men who claim that they are the rightful heirs. They should be the next king. What I would like you to do, Year 7, is I don't want you to write any names. Let me cross those out for you. What I want you to do is to draw a table with 3 columns: claimants, strengths, and weaknesses. Then draw these lines. So I will highlight all I want you to draw and write. I want this line done up here. I want the word claimant, I want strength, and I want weaknesses. And then this line going downwards, I would like that there. And I want this line here. I don't want you to do these lines yet. And I don't want you to write any of this, because you're going to do that in the video you're going to watch. So pause the video and just draw out what I've highlighted, and then come back and I'll explain what I want you to do. Okay, so hopefully you've now got that table drawn out, and you're going to watch this video, which is an absolutely excellent video. I typed in the word succession crisis into YouTube. You guys might want to type in the entire title. Who were the claimants that are thrown in 1066? And it's by a channel called BBC Teach. It's 5.5 minutes long. So I'd like you to go and to get that video ready, please. And what you're going to do, so as the video is played, it is going to take you through the 4 men who wish to be king. And what I would like you to do is, as it goes through, I would like you to write the name down of the man in the claimant column. So Harold Godwinson, Harold Hardrada, etc., etc. And I'd also like you to make a note of the strengths of their argument and the weaknesses of their argument. And there should be 1 or 2 for each one in strengths and weaknesses. You put Harold Hardrada, strengths, weaknesses, and then we'll see what we've got afterwards. If you could go and do that now, please pause this and go into that YouTube video and then come back to this afterwards. Thank you. Okay, so hopefully you've made your table by now, and I'm just going to go through the key points, and you can just green pen and ensure that your table is as similar to what I have to say, so you've got the key points. So I won't go in the same order you have, but Harold Godwinson, he was a lord of the most powerful family in England. He was an earl. He claims that he was promised it on his deathbed, and he was the only real English contender. There was another, but it was a reason he wasn't a real contender. His sister was also married to Edward the Confessor, and he'd helped Edward to run the country as his advisor. So lots of positives. Negatives, he's got no proof that he was promised the throne on his deathbed, but it's a pretty strong argument from Harold Godwinson. The other Harold, the Harald Hardrada, and here is quite a complicated reason that he's he's heir to the throne. But he's got an army ready. The north of England has been ruled by Vikings for quite a long time, and his father was promised the throne, but Edward the Confessor stole that from his father, and he believes that the North will support him. He's very powerful and a fantastic fighter. However, slight reasons, weaknesses of his arguments is he's not English, he cannot speak English, and he also has his own country in Norway to run, which may mean he's slightly distracted and can't focus on running England. William, the Duke of Normandy. Now, he claimed that Edward promised him the throne, and he claimed that Harold had sworn loyalty to him when he placed his hand on the sacred relics. He's got no evidence for that. He also was friends with Edward when growing up, but we don't have any proof about the promises. Weaknesses, he's a Norman. He doesn't speak English. So we're not too sure whether he could be the best option. And finally, Edgar Etheling. That picture should have changed. That's William. Edgar Etheling looks slightly different. And he is a relative of Edward the Confessor. He's a Saxon prince, but he is only 15, which is a massive weakness. So just check, and you can rewind it to see if you get the general points. You don't need them all. The general points that I have. Now, obviously, through the video, you will know that a group of people called the Witan, who were a group of the most powerful people in England who had to choose who the next king was, they chose Harold Godwinson as their next king, which is probably the correct decision, considering all the strengths he had. However, how did the other three men react? Well, Edgar the Etheling accepted Harold as king. He's only 15 and he had no power, so he sort of accepted it. Harald Hardrada was a bit occupied and busy with a war against Denmark, so didn't really get involved. But Duke William of Normandy was enraged as he believed that Harold had sworn loyalty to him, so decided to take action. So to finish today's lesson, folks, I would like you to write down on your sheet of paper what you predict will happen next. Who will fight, who will win, and who will end up king. And then that's it from me. Thank you very much for watching the video today. Thank you for completing the tasks. Can I ask that you upload your a picture of your work to the Firefly task so I can have a quick check of it to make sure all is well. I apologize for it not being a live lesson, but it's just to make sure all the learning goes through without a technical glitch, which I think may have happened if I tried to Zoom the entire lesson. So thank you for watching. Email me if you need any assistance at all, and please attach a photo of your work to the task. Apart from that, folks, have a lovely day, and I'll see you later.